Hi everyone, I'm Lina Delgado, Executive Director of the Colombian American Association. I would like to welcome you all to the first program of our webinar series, Innovation in the Age of COVID-19, a conversation with Colombian entrepreneurs. The word entrepreneur has typically been associated with the founders and funders of startups and early stage companies. However, I believe the term goes beyond that. Entrepreneurship is innovation, is seeing opportunities where others see problems, is having the drive to change the world one day at a time. An entrepreneur can be anywhere. Education is a key element for entrepreneurs. According to the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor's expert survey, Colombia's universities have scored an average of 3.25 out of 5 since 2010 on their survey, which is near the top in Latin America, and has been cited as a reason behind the particular success of the Bogota entrepreneurial ecosystem. Today, I am pleased to welcome the Dean of the International School of Economics and Administrative Science of University of La Sabana, Katherine Pereira, students Luisa Ochoa and Saulo Linares, members of the winning teams of MIT Hackathon, Latin American versus COVID-19, and our moderator, Marcela, head of community of Ureeka, will lead this today conversation and share with us her views on the entrepreneurial environment as an investor and a successful entrepreneur. I also would like to thank to our partner for this program, Universidad La Sabana. The Colombian American Association was the first binational chamber of commerce for Colombia, established in the United States in 1927. We are a private, nonprofit business organization that seeks to disseminate up-to-date information on economic, financial, and political matters and promote commercial and cultural ties among the people of the two nations. I hope you enjoy these programs, and Marcela, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you, Lina. It's really an honor to be here. As you know, I'm extremely committed to building the future of Colombian-based entrepreneurs from here in New York. And at Ureeka, we spend all day providing advice, education, instructions on financing for small business owners. So it's an honor to be able to meet the future entrepreneurs coming out of Colombia, and a bigger honor to meet with Professor Katherine Pereira. To introduce her, we'll never do her enough justice. Katherine Pereira is an economist from the University of Aberdeen, master's in advanced economics from the Scottish doctoral program, and a master's in international finance from the University of Glasgow. She's also a candidate for a doctorate right now. She has extensive professional experience in financial management and administration of private and public sector in telecommunications and education, including the financial superintendents of Colombia. Katherine assumed the position of Dean of the Faculty of the International School of Economic and Administrative Sciences of the University of La Sabana in January of 2019. So Katherine, it's an honor to have you here. We'd love to start by having you tell us a little bit about the school and how the program is connecting entrepreneurs or future entrepreneurs to these programs.
Morning, everybody. Thank you very much for this invitation. We are quite honored that the Colombian American Association has decided to launch this webinar based on our own future entrepreneurs and their experience with the hackathon. Thank you very much, Lina and Marcela, for this opportunity. Well, our school is a school based on a university model that we generally call a third generation university. That means we have teaching, we have research, but we also have social outreach that combines all of our teaching and research efforts. We are, as every good university, focused on recruiting talented students, the most talented if we can, the most talented faculty, and be able to produce the best research. So our school, although we are in a young university, we are ranked in the top 50 under 50 years universities by Times Higher Education. So we have a top placing in Latin America. And I believe that results of all the efforts we've put into our business training. The school is basically focused on training for business, for economics, and for hospitality. We have a portfolio of 6 undergraduate programs, 9 specializations, 5 master's degrees, and a very innovative doctoral program in business. We focus on training global leaders to transform and impact the world. And being a 3rd generation university is basically combining teaching and research to reflect that on social outreach, solving real world problems. And this is what takes us to the link with hackathons. And of course, all the challenge experiences we provide within the curriculum and extracurricularly for our students. How do we do this? Which is the interesting question that you posed. First, we have designed specialized programs in business. So we have business focusing on marketing, on logistics, on international business, on service-oriented industries. We also have a generalized traditional business administration program, but we also have an economics and finance, international finance undergraduate program, plus a gastronomy program that is in a business school because it is very much linked to business acumen and basically management issues around food and its history and culinary arts and culture. And also science, okay? So we have an interesting combination of specialized programs that have allowed us to build a strength on how interdisciplinary we are. And that, I think, is one of the issues that's going to come up today when we see Saulo's and Luisa's experience with the MIT Hackathon against COVID in Latin America. We focus a lot as well, Marcela, on practical relevance within the curriculum. We engage in a huge number of activities which we link with our different assignments within our subjects, so that students can do something they love to do today, which is work on projects, that is on real things, practical things, where they can apply the knowledge they've acquired. And basically what we do is we train ourselves to challenge them constantly within that exercise. So some of the results we are seeing from this methodology is precisely what Lina was mentioning at the beginning, which is this focus on innovation and entrepreneurship that has allowed us to produce some really good results in the school. To give you a couple of numbers, 37% of our graduates are entrepreneurs. 28% of them persist. That's quite above the national average, that is around 20%. And again, one important number is our startups tend to survive at a much higher rate than usually startups do in many parts of the world. As I've mentioned before, we do this focusing on practical relevance, but there's a specific characteristic, and it is that we have a compulsory set of subjects within the curriculum that work on creativity, work on innovation, and develop entrepreneurial skills within our student body. We do have elective subjects around that, so students are perfectly free to read that type of subject, but we do have a compulsory component within our curriculum that guarantees basically the results we're seeing. And I'd like finally to mention that through this articulation of understanding that social outreach is important and that practical relevance is the basic key to getting to solving real world problems and getting to solutions. With our curriculum and extracurricular activities that we foment for our students, we develop a global perspective of business, understanding of multicultural environments. The development of skills is both with hard and soft skills, because soft skills are a key component of what people will require in order to achieve change in real world scenarios and to change society and transform it for good, we hope. There's a complex decision-making process that people have to be trained for in this challenging and highly changing world, where adapting is not simply necessary, but it is also key to be able to make decisions quickly. Apart from that, working and focusing a lot on digital competencies and, of course, responsible business conduct. So we believe this, in general, this setup that we have developed is quite successful, and that's why we have people like Luisa and Saulo here today. Thank you very much, Marcela.
No, thanks, Katherine. Two quick questions before we jump in and meet our stars here. First of all, congratulations, because so much of the early years in being an entrepreneur are spent on those soft skills. And I think that successful founders get that background faster with programs like this. So I couldn't agree with you more. I see it over and over again. Give us a little bit more background before we jump in on what they came up with, what solutions they came up with, on what the ask was for the hackathon. What were they assigned? What was the original thinking around it?
The original thinking of the hackathon is, okay, guys, you have a real exercise that includes people from different backgrounds. These are hackathons, and this particular hackathon had postdoctoral students, doctoral students, master students, people beyond the normal sort of usual undergraduate scenario where they move around in the different extracurricular activities. What we wanted for the hackathon and what we do with events like this is to promote the idea in our undergrad students. Hey, you have to be brave and go out into the world, tell people what you think, believe in what you think, and be able to think creatively and in very short periods of time, communicate ideas effectively and be able to convince others that what your proposals or basic ideas suggest is there is a chance. So what we do is, this has no grade. This is, this has nothing to do with assignments, with, getting a higher honor or an honor roll or whatever. That is not the issue. The basic incentive is you are able to change the world, change society, and it is possible. So what we do is we work in that frame of mind, and we constantly produce incentives for them to go out into the world. And as a school, we support any aspect, including some financial aspects in some of the programs. Today, we have a virtual environment, so it's, in a way, it's cheaper for everybody to be connected. So that's a plus. But anyway, when we have face-to-face activities, we also go all the way to financing perhaps airfares or setting up meetings and organizing how we can better provide responses to all of these challenges that we face. So Luisa and Saulo are examples. They are members of a team that include other people. But in the case of Saulo, for example, he had to convince a lot of people to let him be in that group, and he ended up being one of the leaders or the natural leaders within the group and basically scoring wonderfully in the hackathon. So that's what we do.
Fantastic. Well, then that's perfect segue into meeting Luisa and Saulo. I think what we'll do is start with a brief introduction from each of you, and then go ahead and lead into what your expectations were going into this hackathon, and then we'll go from there. Luisa, do you want to kick off?
Of course, Marcela. Hi, everybody. My name is Luisa Ochoa. I am currently an international business management student. I am 22 years old and currently doing my professional internship at IBM. So my expectations going into a challenge were quite interesting because as Katherine said, I already knew that there was a great opportunity to mix two amazing worlds, which are the academics, what you have learned during your program, your university, the courses, and apply it to real world needs. So I knew that. And because I am passionate for that, I had already participated in a couple of challenges before. So entering the MIT COVID challenge, I thought I had a bit of an idea of what to expect, but it was a pleasant surprise to know that I didn't, because it was a completely different process from any other innovation challenge I was. As Katherine said, the process of gathering the teams was completely different. You didn't arrive to the challenge with the team already built, but you build it in the process. So we had this amazing dynamic where we would pitch in 1 minute a previous idea we had entering the challenge. And after all of us, the participants, heard all the pitches, then we got to interact with one another, and that's how we build the teams. So that was a very important game from the challenge, because that meant that we avoided that bias of who am I working with, but we focused on what we were working on and the goal itself. So that also gave us an important thing, which was to work with people we hadn't met before, and that gave us a lot of cultural and richness. In my case, for instance, I worked with a person from Hong Kong, and that meant that everything had to be done in English, because he told us that he knew a little bit of Spanish because he was a fan of Real Madrid, but actually he didn't know anything. So everything had to be handled in English. And that was another great thing, because we got the opportunity of get outside our comfort zone and making ourselves understood in a different language. So I wasn't expecting that.
Luisa, why don't you quickly describe what it was, the idea that you came up with that was the winning idea for your team?
Okay, so the challenge within the big challenge that Saulo and I were participating, the aim was to verify the use of funds that they were given currently to the SMEs to survive the crisis. So the idea my team came up with was DigiTrust, which is an online voucher program that will help accelerate the digital transformation process for these SMEs. This way, we will be verifying the use of funds through the voucher, but also we are betting on giving these SMEs a more sustainable future in the digital, completely digital world that we are heading towards after the pandemic. So that was basically the idea.
Okay, great. I'll jump in. I'm going to ask you some questions about that in a minute. Let's get Saulo on the board here and hear a bit about his background.
Well, in terms of the expectations before a challenge, I think I have never participated in this type of challenge before. But I think since the beginning of the challenge, I was very intrigued about the team building process, and also with a great expectation to share new ideas with different people from diverse cultures. But to be honest, on the first day, I was also very afraid of not being able to express my ideas or to communicate my arguments clearly. But yeah, because I initially pitched an idea based on machine learning algorithms, but then the idea changed a lot. And then with connecting with people, summing up the team and all of that, the idea changed. And then finally, we found a solution that was better, a solution that it was worked in a team in an efficient way. So I think my expectations was very high at the beginning, and I end the challenge with a better expectation than at the beginning.
Saulo, can you explain, just let everybody know what your idea or your concept was that was this winning idea?
The first one or the final idea?
No, the final one.
Well, the final one is, well, the problem is that we want to verify the use of funds.
Saulo, we just lost some of your sound. You were fine before.
Yeah.
And now you're.
Hello? Do you listen to me now?
It's.
Yeah. Now?
Try a little louder, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, the smart deal, it basically resolved a problem. That is how we're able to verify the funds, how we're able to verify that the funds provided by financial institutions are correctly used. So we find out to provide a digital solution, a digital platform for these financial institutions, but with a key factor, and the key factor is based on a digital tool that is called smart contracts. So at the most basic level, these smart contracts are lines of code. stored on a blockchain and automatically executed when the predetermined terms and conditions were met. So at the end, the electronic transfers from the bank account to the small and medium company will be approved if the requirements of the credit match the smart contract. So until the funds will be released little by little doing this.
So I'm not sure what you're doing. It switches back and forth between being really clear and then not so clear. Can you test again?
Yeah. Do you listen?
There we go. That's perfect.
Okay.
Don't touch anything again.
Okay, perfect.
Perfect. So I heard you say smart contracts and verification of use of funds. So can you just repeat that part again, please?
Yeah, of course. So I was saying that the key factor of the idea is to use smart contracts, but the smart contracts, a brief explication of this smart contracts is that they are lines of code stored on a blockchain service and not automatically executed when the predetermined terms and conditions are met. So when the electronic transfers through the bank will be approved to the small medium company if the requirements of the credit match the smart contracts requirements.
Okay, we're losing you again, Saulo. I'm not sure what's happening. We'll go back to that because I want to make sure everybody understands the practical application of what your solution was. So, Saulo, see what's going on there. I'm going to jump over and just excuse me, pose the kind of next question. So we talked about initial expectations. I heard each of you say that you were nervous going in, that there was some fear about whether or not you would be able to explain your ideas and how it would work. What do you think was a key success driver for, and we'll start with you, Luisa, that got your idea through? Like, what do you think the key points were that helped you communicate your idea well?
In terms of the pitch, for instance, we had this this idea of doing storytelling so that the idea was very exemplified and that everybody got like an idea of the process of each step of the process within DigiTrust, which was our idea to accompany those SMEs to become more digital. So we explained it through a guy called Jose, who had a small restaurant, and he hasn't been able to serve its customers in person because here in Colombia we are under strict lockdown. So what he would do is to apply to this digitalization process with DigiTrust and would apply to the voucher and receive some training on the basic concept and benefits of going digital. And after he understood through very simple videos, we would give him the voucher and start like a support process so that his restaurant could have, for instance, a web page or an app or any way to sell the ingredients so that people could cook them at home. And so this way, the restaurant would be not just surviving the pandemic, but would be prepared and would have this new business strategies through technology to survive after the pandemic. That would be our key.
Luisa, I love that because such a big part of being an entrepreneur is being able to pitch your idea to investors. And talking to investors about the recipient or, you know, the audience of the idea or having a clear use case is so important. And you just outlined it really, really well. So thank you for that. Saulo, can we try on your end, see if you can walk us through your use case?
Yeah, are you able to listen to me correctly or? Yes,
right there.
Okay. Okay, perfect. I'm literally not moving it and nothing.
Okay, I don't know. It's fine. We'll get through it. This is the talk about business in the times of COVID, right? So, yeah. Saulo, can you give us your use case, how you would explain this to, you know, your mom and dad next door, or la abuelita, how your use case works?
Yeah.
I know people use smart contracts and Bitcoin and, you know, anything related to smart contracts and people get all flustered. So yeah, I'd love to hear the day-to-day practicality of it.
Yeah. For example, in a simple way, if a small or medium-sized company, let's say whatever company that is small or medium wants to buy, for example, machinery, and actually the company applied for a loan for the same reason. So the deal platform will function as an intermediary with the company supplier and the company. So at the end, the funds will be released when the terms of the smart contract match the requirements. So at the end, the company will be able to buy the supply, the machinery using the platform for Smart Leo.
Great, thank you. That's great. So what are the next steps? You won this, you came through this, you got the experience. What are the next steps in executing? Because all great ideas don't work without the execution side. So what is the next step that you each have to take after the hackathon, now that this is this portion of it's completed?
Yes.
Go ahead.
In fact, thanks to MIT, we participate in Amazon Web Service Build-a-thon. So we received the necessary guidance from a solutions architect from the company. So basically, he helped us to understand the tools that we need for developing the digital platform, but also to teach you how to use the blockchain service for implementing smart contracts. That will be the first step. The second step that we're having is, with the help of the mentors course, is we're also focusing on choosing whether Chile or Colombia will be the first country in Latin America to implement the solution. Because we think that both markets are very important due to the number of loans that have been granted to small and medium enterprises.
So I'm just going to repeat what I think I heard. So the next step is to actually implement the idea, and you're trying to decide the go-to market, right? I heard you say Chile or Colombia.
Exactly.
So you'll actually be building the project and taking it to market next.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic, great. Luisa, what about on your end?
In terms of our project, we are also using the Amazon Web Services. We are using them currently specifically to tailor the 5 qualifying investments that we define on the challenge as the ones that the companies would trade the voucher for, which are, for instance, the development of a website, an app, digital marketing, online payment solutions. And we are, through the Amazon Web Services, gaining analytics in terms of understanding if those are the primary needs of the SMEs right now. That will be the first step. And on a simultaneous way, we are working with a mentor that we got to know during the competition. And he's from Peru, working as a key promoter of a similar project, which is called Mi Pymes Digital. So we are talking a lot with him, understanding during their implementation process what have been the obstacles, what have been the opportunities, and trying to tailor them for Colombia, because we want to do this first in Colombia. Okay,
so you've determined the go-to-market is in Colombia. So are you going to build a minimal viable product as a next step, or did you do an MVP and now you're going to take it to market? Is there an MVP that's been created?
Not yet. We want to do like the platform and the voucher tracking system. We believe that's key. And also the analytics and other Amazon Web Services can help us through that, because the tracking is key. That would be like the prototype that we would like to build, and also start talking with SMEs so that they can understand how the process would be. But that would be the prototype.
Yeah, this is amazing, right? I mean, you guys have taken the quintessential incubator process. You've gone from strategy to concept. You've built a team around it, right? You've hired your team, in essence, your founding team. You have now flushed this out. You're going to take an MVP to market and then start testing to see whether or not you're actually meeting a market need, which is, again, what most founders look for in a first round of angel funding. So what a great way to start your entrepreneurial journey. I want to make sure that everybody knows that they can do Q&A. So if they want to start asking us questions about the projects themselves, I'm going to shift gears a little bit and talk about this entire idea around COVID and the shift that we're having in running businesses and even actually attending programs like this virtually. Katherine said earlier that there is a cost reduction because you're not traveling. Of course, we all want to go places, but I do think it's an amazing opportunity to learn how to communicate in different ways and more effectively across teams. What I would love to hear from each of you is, do you think that COVID-19 has changed the perspective towards entrepreneurship in Colombia? And do you think that because of COVID, the businesses on the receiving end are finally understanding the importance of going digital? So Saulo, how's your, how are we doing with your technical issues over there?
I think I'm resolved it already.
Okay, let's see if that works. So Saulo, why don't you give us your perspective on whether you think that this is really a COVID thing, we were going in this direction and accelerated it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think before the pandemic, we live in a completely different world than the one that we have right now. So we all know that back to business doesn't mean back to business as usual. And back to university doesn't mean back to academics as usual. So I think this pandemic brought us new problems. Yes, it's correct. But also brought us a different mindset that helped us build innovative ideas that are related to the impacts that we're facing today. But yes, the truth is uncertainty is the reality of the moment. However, in Colombia and also Latin America, we will need people to be encouraged to think differently. People should be motivated to think outside the box in a certain sense. So, because at the end, in this pandemic environment, solutions must be far away from the ordinary. And rather, we will need solutions to be adapted into this completely new situation.
Yeah, and Saulo, what I think is really interesting about the solution you put in place around smart contracts is it helps with the trust factor in digital, fraud protection, and themes like that, that I think a lot of business owners, particularly in Latin America, are very concerned about. I think that in the United States, you know, we have a much higher volume of e-commerce and trust happening around those issues. But what I really liked about your solution is that it's starting to get them to think about the trust factor that digital transactions can put in, can help people put in place. Lisa, what about you? What's your view on this?
Well, I think that as much as most of us already know, this is this will go down as a historic moment. And as every other historic moment where humanity has been challenged, it has thrived and survived through extraordinary. So I think that COVID is taking entrepreneurship in that road. It's making it go there. And this is why I believe entities such as the MIT is promoting this type of challenges so that ideas are heard and implemented. Because for us, maybe it's common to know, and it's something that makes total sense that companies go digital. But on the other hand, I believe that what you said, Marcela, is true, that our customers, the SMEs, might not have that perspective yet, because they might be stuck, as Saulo said, in business as usual. And all of these new technologies, all of these new concepts might be unknown for them, and they will think that it's difficult to implement them. And it's crucial to do so now because of the pandemic we are living and the digital world we are heading to. So I think that the real impact and the real change has been felt by the SMEs and the customers we are engaging with this new type of ideas. And so I think that, well, on the other hand, their perspective has been changed because they have been forced to think outside the box, to rethink the way they sell their products or provide their services. And now the digital part has become a must. Today, I had the opportunity of attending a talk because IBM has opened the first process transformation through artificial intelligence center in Bogota. And so we had the mayor of Bogota and the director of the Chamber of Commerce reinforce this type of digital ideas and telling us examples of how this has been implemented. For instance, they talked about this initiative called Mercatón Campesino, which is a platform for farmers to sell their products online. And also they have been supporting small artisans so that they can partner with big e-commerce platforms such as Mercado Libre, which is huge here in Latin America, so that they can sell their products there. So I think that the change has started, but I think that with new ideas such as DigiTrust and Smart Deal, we can make the change be bigger. And that's what it's important right now.
For both of you, again, this is my perception, and Katherine, I'd love your point of view on this too. My perception of the businesses I've seen in Colombia, I have a business in Colombia myself, and struggle with how different, again, e-commerce in particular is between the two countries. What do you think, and there's a question here, what do you think that the SMEs have to do? And there's a big difference between a small and a medium-sized enterprise, right? And then your small business owner. So your use case, Luisa, described a restaurant owner, and that restaurant owner's need for technology of a website, maybe a menu or an app to order. That's very different from somebody who's maybe building a tech platform or a larger enterprise, like where I think Saulo's technology is going with machinery and those transactions. Regardless, what do you think the SMEs have to do to think about going digital? We take it for granted that you're all in that mindset already. What do you think we have to do to convince the older generation of entrepreneurs in Colombia to start thinking, or not even just in Colombia, in Latin America, to start thinking digital? Because it's a mindset shift.
Well, I think that these new ideas will help us go through that, but that mindset is so set that we have to get them through the benefits, I believe, and through the idea that this will be the new reality after the pandemic, that this is a must and not a desirable thing, that they have to do it so that they can survive and thrive and be competitive in the post-pandemic world. I think the benefits of going digital are clear, are huge, but we have to explain them so that they can understand that that will be the new way of doing business. And through that, we can help change that mindset that is so business as usual, but being very explicit about the benefits and the why they have to do the shift, I think it's a good way to approach them and make them understand.
Yeah, I think mindset is always the hardest thing to change. Particularly, I'm thinking about the generation before yours, that it's a major shift and not just a slight shift. And again, the type of business will really matter too. I think we lost Saulo. So I'm going to, Katherine, did you want to comment?
Yeah, I wanted to mention a couple of things. I'm adding to what Saulo and Luisa mentioned, but I believe in the case of Colombia, since you're interested in that case, there has to be, and I believe there is, a strong emphasis on the issue of connectivity, because you have a lot of small businesses that have suffered the brunt of the employment and affectations in general of COVID in Colombia, but massively. I believe about 66% of the impact has been has focused basically on that sector. So there has to be a cultural change. There will be again a generational change, and there has never been a time where two things were more important: connectivity in the case of Colombia, but also training and retraining. That is, learning new things and considering new ways of doing what we do every single day. I think that has to be a must for SMEs.
Now, that's a great point. And I think the big question too is, can there be enough programs in place so that they can afford to connect, to go digital, and to manage their business from that perspective? Because it's not cheap to add those operational costs when you're worried about survival, right? A lot of the small business owners during COVID are not thinking about growth right now. They're thinking about survival. And I think, Luisa, again, back to your point, you're giving them the opportunity through these contracts, through these credits, to take advantage of that. The question is, can they then continue to work down that path without the fear of increasing their operational costs, right? Yes. So I think that'll be an important component to the conversations you have. And I can't wait to hear back about the feedback you get when you start to launch some of these programs. I think we lost Saulo, unfortunately. So if we have any questions, I just want to remind everybody, if there's any questions that people want to ask, just put them into the Q&A and we will gladly jump in there and answer them. Luisa, one of the things I'm so impressed about, and I know we have a lot of students on the line, it's hard to know exactly what the audience looks like when you're doing this virtually, but your English is phenomenal. And I know that, I'm sure Katherine has been focused on these programs. tell me a little bit about what it felt like to walk into the hackathon, knowing that you would be in an English first, potentially in an English first situation, and how that all worked itself out. I'm moving a little bit away from COVID and back to the educational component, because I'm listening to you guys and I'm so impressed by not only your English itself, but your ability to speak about business in perfect English. And that's not an easy thing.
Thank you, Marcela. Well, it has to do, as you said, a lot with the education. I believe that the university, the program has prepared us to face these challenges and raise the bar continuously. And I think English has been a great component that has been throughout my whole career, my whole program. A lot of subjects were taught in English, and we had to do speaking, we had to do pitching, we had to gather in groups and talk only in English. So I think that the educational component was very good in terms of preparing us for an English-only environment, as the one that the COVID hackathon was creating. And I think that's really important. You know, business nowadays is handled in a great deal in English, and so being able to express yourself and being able to learn how to do so from the beginning during the university is such a key part of becoming a future entrepreneur. And I believe that the university has given me the resources, and they also they connect us with all of these amazing challenges which are handled in English as well, such as the Holt Prize, such as the L'Oreal Brainstorm, and they give us the opportunity to continuously participate in those spaces, and it's up to us, these students, to take advantage of that. But the resources are there, and it was a great experience overall.
Marcela, I'd like to just mention, we actually have a compulsory barrier to entry in our programs, and that's a B1 level of English. We are quite inclusive. That is, we provide for free specific English courses so that people can reach the level to come into the programs. And we require that to be in place because students from second semester onwards read subjects in English. So we really need to push competency in the English language right throughout the programs, but beginning with the first semesters. So what Luisa mentioned is actually a very positive result of that strategy.
That's fantastic. I can't tell you how impressed I am. It's exciting to see the opportunities that are opening up again from a digital perspective because of COVID for our entrepreneurs in Colombia to be working worldwide across everybody. Saulo, are you back?
Yeah, I think so.
Great. We have a question from the audience. It says, Marcela, from your experience working in the US, what advice would you give someone who's starting and developing a new project? I'm going to go ahead and answer that live. And I have to say that, again, I've been doing startups and starting businesses over the last 20 years. And the process that you both just went through is really the process that, particularly at Ureeka, we walk our entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs through every day. If you have a concept, get that concept on paper, run it by a series of advisors or experienced people to make sure that the idea is sound. Do your competitive analysis, look at the marketplace, make sure that the use case is there and that you can explain it, like I said earlier, to your abuelita, right? You have to have a simple elevator pitch that gets your idea across to any audience. Because if you cannot explain it to someone on the street, an investor may not be able to believe that you can then sell it. So those are the basics that you both learned through this program that I believe applies to any type of business, even if it's a restaurant, right? Even if you're opening a local restaurant, your competition sits within a parameter. You need to know how you're going to differentiate all of those key things. And then, is your menu right? Is it going to call the attention of your end audience? So while the application may be simpler in some ways, it's really very similar across a lot of the business sectors. And again, Luisa, your practical application will be interesting because in the United States, we're seeing a lot of grant programs being released, particularly to developing communities, Black, brown communities, there's a lot of money being invested into those communities. And I think credits is a great way for us to connect the corporate money with the entrepreneurs looking to solve problems. Saulo, what I love about where you're taking it is you're going one step beyond where so many of us are today, focusing on smart contracts. So I just want to revisit this really quick. Who do you think your first buyer and seller are? Like, who's on both sides of the equation for you? If you decide to go to market in Colombia, for example.
Yeah, I think we'll think that the principal user is obviously the small medium company, but the principal customer for the digital platform will be the financial institution. And as a financial institution, I mean, I could be the government who provides loans, or also a bank or a financial entity who provides also the loans. So I think the two parts of the equation will be the user, with that is the small company, and obviously our customer, that is the financial institution.
Perfect. No, that's great. Interestingly enough, and I know we talked about it when we all met earlier, I'm currently working at Ureeka, which is really a center point, a marketplace for the small business owner to find the types of solutions, Saulo, that you're talking about, where we actually vet those financial institutions, the government grants, so that we can connect them to the small business owner. And if we go back to thinking through COVID, there's been such a plethora of information thrown out there and resources thrown out there that while both of your solutions are very sound, I think the biggest challenge for the small business owner will be to find where those credits are, who to trust with their time, right? If it's building a website, if it's creating a contract with a manufacturer, who to trust in helping them make that decision. And then who to trust in executing it, right? Just like you guys are doing your homework on how you're going to take this to market, it'll be interesting to see how you establish almost like a rating system with the suppliers on both sides, because again, small and medium-sized business owners don't have the luxury of time that big enterprises might have, because they have a board of directors and they have advisors and they have all of these people to double check that the offering is right for them. And so I think my advice, as you guys think through that, is what checkpoints your solutions provide to make sure that trust is created while those processes are happening, right? While your applications, while your technology facilitate the transaction, how do you make sure that on the receiving end on both sides there's trust? There's another question. What are the challenges that they found in all the process and as workers in the US? I'm not sure what they mean by all the process as workers in the US, but I would love to hear about the challenges that you faced while you were going through the initial team building and the hackathon itself. Saulo?
Yeah, I want to say that, well, as I said at the beginning, initially the idea that I put in the pitch, it was to build a certain type of algorithm to regulate this transactions between the companies and the financial institutions. But when we connect with other people and when I met my teammates nowadays, I think the idea changed a lot, and the idea changed a lot with the help of various tools like a discussion. Analysis, and finally we bring out a very interesting idea with the help of the mentors of MIT, of course. But I think it was very challenging to change the idea from 48 hours to this completely new type of idea that is based on blockchain and on artificial intelligence. So I think, despite the fact of being challenged to communicate my ideas with different people from different backgrounds, I think the other challenge was to build something that it was actually good for the people. And that was actually a very, very perfect from the opinion of all the members of the team.
So you had 48 hours where you had to do a major shift in your thinking and collaborate with the team to agree to make that happen.
Exactly, yeah.
That's tough under any situation. Lisa, what about on your end? What do you think was the biggest challenge you found?
I think that the building of the process itself, as Digitrust established a very simple process for SMEs, as you said, to trust it, to understand it, like going from this really big picture and idea and try to simplify it in 4 simple steps that would cover everything we needed during the process and that fulfill the customer's needs. I think that was the most difficult part, because we had these tons of ideas. We wanted to do trainings through videos, through courses. We wanted to reach them. We wanted to talk with the private banks. We also wanted to talk with the development banks and try like to do like a segmentation and to reduce and stay with the focus and the main points within the process. I think was the most difficult part, like to edit.
You guys are going to be experts at elevator pitches when you're done with all this. That's always the toughest part. There's a great question here from Mary Moida that came in through Facebook. What advice would you give to students who are planning to develop a new project or business? Katherine, do you want to take that first?
Thank you, Marcela. Basically, my recommendation, Luisa was and Saulo were first semester students with me. I was their professor in an introduction to business class. And basically, you have to think you're able to do things. You have to work hard. You have to be disciplined. And basically, my answer is based on the soft skills that we develop. These 2 people we have here today, I was smiling because I'm really proud of them. I know them since they were very young and came into university asking for a slot in the international business program. And what we interview students when they want to come into the programs. And one of the things that I like to identify is that drive. I have dreams. I always tell students, if you don't have dreams, this is not the place for you. You need to have that sort of anchor personally. So the indication of the ability to develop soft skills in a stronger way when students come in is key. You have to adapt. You have to be disciplined. You have to be responsible. And one thing that culturally it's quite difficult in Colombia at the beginning is to develop autonomy. That is key. That is, if they believe in themselves, but you don't have to be pushing them around to do things, but they are able to acquire the sense of, I have my autonomy well placed, well developed, and I know I can reach certain environments and activities with my own impulse and ask for help when I need it. That's basic. The other thing that we are quite strong at, and I'm seeing it in all the structured comments of Luisa and Saulo, is complex thinking. Today we have, Marcela, a lot of distractions. I always tell my students today, look, focus on deep thinking. Don't think about the cell phone. Don't think about the WhatsApp message or the computer. We have to dedicate time to thinking strictly about the problems we face and to be intense with that, not simply get distracted. And that requires discipline and responsibility. So my basic recommendation to the person that asked the question and all of the students or future students is you have to be autonomous, but then you have to be disciplined and responsible to be able to concentrate on the task at hand.
Katherine, that I'm going to quote you when I take this recording, because that's exactly the same advice we give entrepreneurs when they come into our platform. What do you have to do to succeed? You have to remove distractions. You have to stop saying you don't have time, right? Like if you remove all of those extra hours of distraction that we've added with, and I'm going to say this very specifically, with social media, right? Where you're chatting with friends. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you can shift that time to social, to look at your competitors, to understand marketing trends, right? That focus and autonomy in researching and getting ready for your business, what you're learning as students can be applied to being an entrepreneur. And if you don't have that drive to do those things initially, then don't think you're going to be a successful entrepreneur. It won't happen. You have to be able to do all the things that Katherine just said, not only as a student, but as an entrepreneur too. It applies all the way through, which is again why I think this program is really just perfectly suited. And it also proves why you're seeing the success numbers that you're seeing across those startups, right? I mean, it just ties in really, really beautifully. We're running out of time. There's a question about whether or not anybody worked on health system solutions during the hackathon. Does anybody know if there was anything in the health space that was worked on?
Yes, as I think I mentioned before, we were divided, the big challenge was divided on tracks from A to J. And so the first one were related to healthcare solutions.
All right. So maybe Lina's going to have to run one of these on the healthcare side. Luisa, why don't you give us really quick, we've got a couple minutes left, just some closing advice, your key takeaways from this and where you aspire to go with it next.
So I think my key advice would be to take risks. As Saulo said, we tend to think that things are bigger than us, that it's the MIT, it's the COVID, it seems bigger than me. But be willing to take risks, be willing to do things wrong and to try again and to think and rethink and rebuild. The iteration process is something fundamental when you're an entrepreneur because things are not going to work out the first try. So take risks. As Katherine said, be sure of yourself, be sure of what you know and what you can bring, and be sure because there are no rights or wrongs. There are just ideas. That would be my advice.
Thank you, Luisa. Saulo?
Yeah, I think 2020 put us on a very difficult path, but that is not necessarily the end of the story. I mean, we live in a world in constant movement. So if we want to improve our quality of life, I think we have the power to change the direction of things. We have in our hands the ability to improve the life of others simply by being creative. So at a time when not everything is clear, I think the only thing that it seems to be certain is our attempt to leave a mark in the community. I think we must all try to do something for Colombia, for Latin America, and for the world. And I think Smart Deal and DigiTrust are two ideas that are trying to be implemented under this ideology. But imagine if everyone contributes, bringing new solutions from diverse perspectives. So I think my recommendation will be, let's, as Horseman said, let's be ashamed to die until we win some victory for humanity.
That's great. Thank you, Saulo. Katherine, any closing words?
Well, I believe it's quite evident today, as I started off my comments this morning, that basically universities are about talented students, talented faculty, and the best research. The thing with us at the university is research cannot simply stay in a scientific field. You have to take that to the real world. And here we have two extraordinary examples of people that have understood that perfectly and taken advantage of their training to, bet on solutions for the world and improving society in general. And this cross borders, this is not just Colombia, this is the world. So that would be my closing comment. Third generation university focusing on real life challenges and students, talented people, talented faculty, mentors, all working towards it.
That's great. Thank you so much. Lina, I see you're back on screen here, so I'll let you do closing words.
I don't have words because this has been one of the amazing panels that we ever had or host at the Colombian American Association. Katherine, you are doing an amazing job at the university, and you are giving the opportunity to students to work and turn the ideas or dreams into reality. And this is what the university are for. I think, as you mentioned, it's not just go to classes; it's just go to the reality to see what is happening in the world and how we can make it better. Saulo and Luisa, you are amazing. I'm proud to be Colombian and proud of you guys. And I know that you are going to do an amazing thing. This is just one part of your journey. Just keep doing it. And I hope to see you again in one of these panels so you can keep telling us what's going on with your project. And Marcela, thank you again. And I'm going to say that I hope you can join us for another of those this series of entrepreneurship. You are a Colombian that doing an amazing things. What you talk here during this panel is just part of all the things that you are doing, and for Colombian too. So thank you so much. Thank you all of you guys for attending this program, and we're going to send you our next event. So keep tuned for news about the Colombian American Association, and thank you again. Have a nice day.
Thanks for having us, Lina. Ciao.